Michaela, thank you very much. Thank you also to Matt for just the work you're doing locally here on the ground, supporting Chorus Kitchens here. They're an amazing organisation. They're desperate for cash at the moment, and like many other organisations, particularly in food preparation, they're just seeing a massive spike in the increase of all of the raw materials, all of the vegetables, the meats and the ingredients going into their products otherwise. And the incredible work that Dan and Mandy and Brian were telling us about before, it's not just about delivering meals to people who might be in a very difficult position, might be aged at home, not wanting to go into an aged care facility, just retired, people with all sorts of reasons to have these meals delivered. They're doing it really tough, and I think the Prime Minister should have a chat to the people here, because there is a change in the funding model that's required. There is more assistance that's needed for Meals on Wheels. It's not just about delivering the meal to an elderly resident, somebody who may or may not have contact with family. Maybe the family doesn't get to visit, or maybe they're living in another part of the state or the country and just can't keep an eye on their mum or dad. So there's that social aspect to Meals on Wheels as well, and the support that they can provide when they turn up. Just a welfare check to make sure that they've got their medication, to make sure that they've got the meal, that they've eaten the meal from yesterday. We know with the early onset of dementia and other medical conditions as well, the Meals on Wheels volunteers do an incredible job, not just in delivering food, but to delivering a hand of support and help to those who really need it. So I hope that the government can provide some additional support to Meals on Wheels, and we would certainly be very supportive of that. There's a budget coming up in May, and that would be the obvious point to provide more support for Meals on Wheels and like services. But I just want to say thank you very much to Chorus today and to the volunteers there. Michaela, Matt and I went around and helped prepare a few meals, but they delivered 200 meals, and at the pace we were working at, we weren't going to be finished by lunchtime. So we handed over to the professionals to finish it off. Just a couple of other points. It's not just here, this business and this organisation that's feeling the real squeeze when it comes to cost of living. As you know, the inflation rate is higher here in Western Australia than it is in the other states and territories. There are families now who are coming off packages that had fixed interest rates and now going on to variable rates or a new fixed package, and they're finding it really hard, and it's going to get harder this year by all accounts. And at a time when the government should be trying to make it easier for families, the Albanese government's making decisions which frankly make it much, much harder for families. If you're taking decisions like the introduction of a new carbon tax, that is 3 times higher than what Julia Gillard was proposing. The businesses aren't going to wear that cost. They're not going to see a reduction in their profits. They're going to pass that cost on to families. And you're going to see an increase in electricity prices, in gas prices, in food prices, at a time when families and small businesses just can't afford it. So I really worry about the Australian public at the moment, who are, frankly, as Michaela pointed out, looking to a Prime Minister and shrugging their shoulders, because he promised before the election he had a plan. He promised on 97 occasions that he would reduce power prices by $275. It just hasn't happened. And we're seeing at the moment a lot of decisions which will contribute to an upward pressure on interest rates at a time when families can least afford that. Now, not only in our country at the moment is there a cost of living crisis, but there is also a crisis when it comes to law and order, and a breakdown in many of our Indigenous communities, not just in WA, but in Northern Territory. You've seen the headlines on Alice Springs. There are a lot of mayors here in WA at the moment, in regional and remote areas, who are very worried that they're heading down the Alice Springs path. And the Albanese government, one of their first decisions that they took was to abolish the cashless debit card. And by abolishing the cashless debit card, the rivers of grog have just reopened. They've started to flow, and we're seeing a step up in violence again. I'm really pleased that we're going to head to Laverton shortly and to meet with the mayors and some of the local communities there, and also to Leonora as well, to have a chat to those people and get a better understanding of what's happening on the ground.